Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Today, we're going to be talking about a republic, the Republic of Nagoro-Karabakh. Today, we have Representative Robert Avetisyan. He is the representative of the Republic of Nagoro-Karabakh. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I should say welcome to Fresno because you're not normally around Fresno much.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And this is my first visit here, not the first one apparently, to the California. And Fresno has been always on the agenda, and I'm glad that I finally made it.
When you're in Washington, D.C., where your office is, or when you're in Karabakh, had you heard about Fresno?
Of course we did. We know that Fresno has one of the most vibrant Armenian communities, and we have been hearing the news about the community in Fresno, and we know that this is one of the most developed agricultural states, which is very important and very interesting for us. Fresno is an important town, we know it.
Your office is in Washington, D.C. What are your roles in Washington, D.C.? What do you do?
Well, the name Representation Office. We're trying to present our republic. We're trying to present the life we're living back home. What does it mean, the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, how it came up, all our achievements, all the remaining challenges, and everything we can offer to the international community.
While in Washington, D.C., do you meet with other countries as well, or are you just meeting with the United States government?
No, unfortunately, as the representation of a non-recognized state, we have some limitations and some difficulties to have full-fledged interstate relations, including the contacts on state level. But we are working hard and we're trying to maintain contacts and relations with the countries which are open to a dialogue.
And how far is Karabakh to Armenia? You mentioned that you heard that there is a vibrant Armenian community here in Fresno. So the two are related then, are they not?
The two, you mean
Armenia and Karabakh?
Yes, Karabakh is Armenians, ethnic Armenians, of course, and we affiliate ourselves with everything Armenian.
And then the currency used in Karabakh, what currency is that?
Currently it's in Armenian dram, so we have the common economic area with Armenia.
Let me ask you about your role in Washington, D.C. Do you fly to Karabakh often, or are you permanently in Washington, D.C.?
I'm trying to be back home at least twice a year.
Let's talk about your background a little bit. How did you get selected to represent Nagorno-Karabakh? I mean, is it an elected office, or how does that work?
No, it's an appointed position, and I've been working in the foreign ministry ever since I graduated from the university, so I have the honor to be here.
You speak English very well, so English you must have learned while in Karabakh, or?
Yes, I did. I did learn in Karabakh, and I would say that the students in Karabakh, everyone in Karabakh, will realize that the more languages you know, the more easier it will be for you to get along in the contemporary world, of course. And we're trying to learn not only Armenian, Russian traditionally, but also at least a couple of foreign languages.
Talk about the history of Karabakh. When did it become independent and how?
Well, Karabakh has been independent throughout centuries, and on various stages of its history. We were part of Armenian kingdom, part of Armenia, and sovereign on our own. But most recently, we restored our independence in 1991, when the Soviet Union disintegrated, and we proclaimed independence in compliance with the then acting legislation.
So in Karabakh, is there a president? Is there a Congress? Talk about the governance of the country.
Yes, our president is elected for every 5 years, and we have the same limitations as normal democracies do. So the same person cannot be elected as president after 2 consecutive terms. We have National Assembly, the equivalent of the parliament, and we have the government. So we have all the normal or usual branches of power you got used to here.
What is the closest country to Karabakh? Is it Armenia politically, or what's the relationship like with Russia?
Well, unfortunately, again, coming from the non-recognized status of our republic, we don't maintain official relations with Russia. But Russia is one of the countries which is dealing with the conflict, which is mediating the conflict with Azerbaijan. So all the Official contacts are yet to come. We do have common border with Armenia, with Azerbaijan, and with Iran to the south.
Talk about the relationship with Azerbaijan, because there's a conflict there, correct?
Correct. Unfortunately, it is still unresolved. And the conflict erupted in 1988, the most recent stage of it, when we declared our intention to reunify with Armenia, because that was a decision by an infamous Soviet dictator Stalin, who tore us apart from Armenia and gave it as under jurisdiction of the Soviet Azerbaijan.
For our audience members who don't know the situation of Karabakh, so it was part of Armenia and Stalin gave it to Azerbaijan.
Correct.
And there was a war, or what happened to cause Karabakh to be its own?
Stalin gave it to Soviet Azerbaijan. So there was no any period in the history when independent country of Azerbaijan included Karabakh. So we were affiliated always with Armenia. And in 1988, as I said, when you heard about Gorbachev, probably,
yes,
his era of perestroika and glasnost, and he tried to bring more democracy in the air. So we used that opportunity and stood for our rights and declared, we actually appealed the authorities in Armenia, in Soviet Armenia, Soviet Azerbaijan, and in Moscow to validate the deal, so we are getting back to Armenia. Unfortunately, Azerbaijan responded with repressions, and they tried to suppress this movement. This is the root of the conflict, and eventually it escalated into a full-scale military operations, unfortunately, which was devastating for both sides. And we're still in the process of getting to the final peace.
So right now it's peace, or what is the situation right now?
It is a ceasefire, which has been signed in 1994 between the Nagorno-Karabakh Republic, Azerbaijan, and Armenia.
But is there a threat that there may be war between the two countries?
There is threat. We get the signals from Azerbaijan that they're not going to tolerate the independence of the Nagorno-Karabakh, and we hear some revanchist statements from Azerbaijan, unfortunately, but we're doing our best to prevent it from happening.
Does Karabakh have its own military? I mean, do you have your own? In the case of, let's say, an attack, can you defend yourself?
We definitely are capable of defending ourselves, and that's a story which occurred during the First War of 91 and 94. Nagorno-Karabakh Republic has all the attributes of statehood you may think of, including the capable armed forces, which are evaluated and assessed as capable not only by Armenians, but also by foreign military experts.
Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the country of Karabakh. You've been in Fresno since yesterday.
Yes.
Does Fresno look like Karabakh at all?
Actually, that's the first thing I thought when I landed here, because even the air is pretty much like Stepanakert, like my hometown, the dryness of the air and the climate. Yes, pretty much Stepanakert is also small, cozy. Well, not that small, of course. That's the only difference with Fresno. But yes, it pretty much resembles my home country.
So if I wanted to go visit Karabakh, what would be the first place you point to?
Karabakh is not that big. So there are several places which are must-be. And you have to be, of course, in Stepanakert, in the capital, in the Shushi, in the historical capital of Nagorno-Karabakh. And there are plenty of monasteries and plenty of historical sites we usually offer to be visited by the tourists.
By monasteries, you mean churches. Are these churches old? And when you go into one of these old churches, what do you expect to see?
History. History. And it's strange. You have to be there. You have to feel the air, the entire atmosphere, the entire environment is filled with ancient history and the very early Christian monuments, and you know about the Armenian Hajj cars. So very, very big number of Armenian Hajj cars with very strange and non-usual shape. So many things which are almost always accompanied by a very interesting story behind it.
You mentioned Hajj car, and I know what that means, but our audience may not know. Can you describe what you mean by a Hajj car?
Hajj means a cross, and kar means a stone in Armenian. So it's a traditional Armenian monument of cross carved on a stone, and which is very common throughout the ancient Armenia and throughout the Armenia of nowadays.
You mentioned monasteries, churches, these crosses made out of stone. Christianity must have been important or must be important for Karabakh. Talk about how important it is.
It's very important. Armenians were the first nation who adopted Christianity on state level in 301 AD. And the Karabakh was Artsakh at the time. It was one of the places when the Christianity was spread. And that's when we saw the first construction of churches and then chapels, which date back to very early centuries. Spiritual life has been always there, and even throughout the Soviet history, when we were forbidden to visit churches, when we were forbidden to express that we were Christians, we took it with us. We took it throughout the Soviet 70 years, and we gave it, we kind of poured it back when we gained independence and when we were given the opportunity to do so.
Let's talk about the road system in Karabakh. So in the United States, in Fresno, we have well-done roads. We have freeways. You know, when I get to work, I use a freeway. When I come to the studio, I use a freeway. Is it the similar thing in Karabakh?
I wouldn't say so, because Karabakh is a mountainous place, and you have thousands of left and rights, ups and downs. So freeways, yes, of course, we would rather be happy to have them. But it's not that easy to get along Nagorno-Karabakh, which doesn't mean that the quality of roads is bad. We understand the importance of developing infrastructure, especially which was damaged during the war, and we have been directing enormous efforts to restore the infrastructure. And now, I would say that the quality of the roads is pretty good. You will be surprised with the quality of those. And the main road which connects northern part with the southern part of Artsakh, it's called North-South Highway. And it goes through 200 and something settlements, big and small settlements, and it's pretty good, safe, and it corresponds to all the standards.
The mountains, you mentioned that it's a very mountainous area of land. Do you think that helps you in defense if war would ever break out?
It does, like it did during the war of 91 and 94. Yes, but it's not only the landscape, of course. There are many things which give us the assurance that we're safe.
If I go from Fresno to Karabakh, what am I going to eat? What's the food like? And talk about some of the food that you've eaten there. Describe what it is.
With all the delicious things I've tried through these 2 days here, I would say that the food in Karabakh is excellent. And you'll see the whole bunch and variety of all kinds of meats. And greens. Greens are very popular in our cuisine. And the pork, the Karabakh pork, is very popular. So the barbecue of pork, which we call khorovats, is something which we proud to offer to all the guests.
In Fresno, a lot of people like kebab.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people like pilav, rice pilav. So in Karabakh, is it the same? Can I find this stuff?
Yes, you can find pretty much everything you got used to here. No, well, I mean, Nagorno-Karabakh is a normal state, is a normal society which has its own laws and traditions, of course, but which is open to new directions, including in cuisine.
In Fresno, we have several lakes around. Mm-hmm. So when we get hot, when we want to go on a boat or jet ski, we have lakes to go to if we want to swim or fish. Karabakh, do you have lakes? Is it?
We do have lakes, but we usually climb into the mountains to get cool. And if you go to Shushi, for instance, that's a cradle of the Armenian culture, and it's very high. The latitude is very high, and you will see how climate is cool in summer, but it's cold in winter, but it's very pleasant. We don't have that much number of lakes. There is one big reservoir to the north of the country and several smaller lakes throughout the Republic.
Water. It's important. We need it to live. How do the people get water? Is it rivers, or where does the water come from?
It is both rivers and artisan sources, but most recently we began to restore the water pipeline system in Nagorno-Karabakh, throughout Nagorno-Karabakh. And the government has launched a program last year which is aimed at bringing water to all the major settlements throughout the Republic, including the mountain fresh water and the one from the artisan.
Is this a tough thing to do? Because You mentioned a couple of times that you're talking about a mountainous area, high mountains. Is it tough to get water up there? I mean, do you need support from other countries or individuals?
Well, I'm sure support from the international community will make much easier, will make things much easier, of course. But we do it on our own now. And having water high in the mountains means it's clean and it has the natural flow, so you can use those advantages to bring it closer to the settlements.
Europe historically has been close to Armenia.
Mm-hmm.
During the Crusades, we saw a lot of European soldiers come through Armenia. How about now? Do a lot of Europeans go to Karabakh and visit? And if so, what are they looking for?
They actually do. And last year we had more than 15,000 tourists visiting Karabakh, which is a pretty good indicator for us. And every year we register 30 to 40% in number of tourists. We just touched upon all the attractive spheres. Well, it's organic food. It's untouched, in many cases, untouched nature. It's very beautiful. It's very hospitable. The infrastructure is pretty good, and it is developing, and the cuisine. And the hospitality of the people, of course.
When I go to Karabakh, can I use English, American dollars, or would I have to go and use the Armenian taram, or maybe even the Russian money?
You can use US dollars, but the banking system is pretty well developed, and there are ATMs throughout the Republic. You can use your card for paying for regular stuff. I mean, everything you got used to here. You can find it there. Drams are more common, of course, not Russian rubles. Dollars would be more preferable.
If I go there and I speak only English, can I get by, or would you recommend I learn Armenian or Russian?
I would recommend a couple of phrases to get along in Armenian or in Russian if it's easier for you. But English and in general foreign languages are becoming priority for us. And like all the foreigners, if you visit the foreign ministry to get the accreditation or the visa, you will be guided and helped out if you need.
When you flew in, you probably flew in through Fresno International Airport. Does Karabakh have an airport? And if so, are flights going and coming?
We used to have an active functioning airport until the war erupted in '91. Then it was closed down for the natural reasons. Now we are restoring it, and we're doing our best to ensure that it is safe technically, and that we can provide all the conditions for a safe and regular flight. We do have plans to open it pretty soon.
You're in Fresno. What are you talking about? And who are you meeting with over here?
Well, this is my first visit, and the agenda is pretty loaded. And we are trying to reach out to our community. We're trying to reach out to these think tanks, to the academic circles. We're talking about Karabakh, about what it is in general. And I'm trying to answer all the questions I hear about it.
Do you think that a lot of people out there don't really understand Karabakh or misunderstand Karabakh?
Well, my opinion is that if a person is interested in Karabakh, it's pretty easy to understand it. So the most important is to raise the interest in people. If they have the interest, Karabakh is pretty well developed, pretty well represented on the web. So you can find any kind of information you may need.
If I'm a businessman in Fresno and I want to invest in Karabakh, what is the process for that? Do I simply call you, or do I call someone in Karabakh? Walk us through the steps it takes for someone like me to invest in Karabakh.
Well, as a representation, the first step would be contacting the representation office. Of course, if you are already in Armenia, already in Karabakh, or plan to do so, you may contact the government in Stepanakert. We have several agencies which are dealing with investment programs. We have Artsakh Investment Fund, and Artsakh is the ancient name for this piece of land, the ancient Armenian name. We have all the infrastructure, all the governmental bodies which are regulating the investment process, so it is easy and transparent and protected by the state.
Is it US dollars? So if I have $10,000 in my bank account, would I be able to invest the $10,000 in Karabakh, or would I have to change the money to something else?
No, absolutely. The banking system is open to any currency.
And talk about the banking system a little bit. So if I go to Karabakh and I'm traveling to cities, will I find multiple banks or one bank?
In the cities, you probably will, in the minor cities, other than the capital of Stepanakert, you will probably find no more than 3 branches of 3 different banks, which are which have the most presence throughout the Republic. But in general, we don't hear any complaints. I mean, that still it suffices.
What are the cars in Karabakh? So here we look out and we see Honda, we see Toyota, we see Chevy, we see Ford. If I go to Karabakh, what am I seeing and what color is it? Is it all the colors?
Everything. Everything started from top to bottom. You can see everything there because we like transportation, of course. And the more increases the wellness of the population, the more the number of cars is. But the preference goes to probably Japanese and German cars.
Are you seeing a lot of people moving to Karabakh to live? And if so, where are they coming from?
Not to the extent we would like it to be, but we are registering for the 7th consecutive year. We are registering population growth, and they're coming from throughout the world, and not only Armenians. We have many cases when the foreigners decide to move to Karabakh, be it first for business reasons or whatever reasons, but they eventually settle down there. Not to the extent. Of course, we can welcome more people.
Can your infrastructure handle more people? I mean, sometimes we see cities where tons of people go and it can't handle it. In the case of Karabakh, if 10,000 people decide we want to move to Karabakh, number one, will you welcome them? And number two, do you have the infrastructure in place?
Number one, we will welcome them. But the second question is a bit tough, of course, and we will do our best to provide all the necessary infrastructure. We'll try to make sure that they have everything, which is schools and first aid, the medical facilities, the roads, the food supply and everything. But it can be done stage by stage. So the people, sometimes, in many cases, even in a post-war situation, we have to start from very, at the first sight, unfavorable conditions, which eventually bring us to a much better life.
We're in the studio here, surrounded by lights, cameras, beautiful facility. So, Karabakh, where is the studio there? Do you have one? And do you broadcast shows like this?
We do, and the Artsakh State Television is very vibrant and it's developing. They are online. They don't broadcast live, but they upload 5 to 6 the most interesting clips about the developments in the Republic daily, on a daily basis. And it's very informative. I would suggest you to go there and visit.
Where would we be able to go online to find videos of Karabakh or state television or even radio? Now with the web, you can listen. I can be in Fresno listening to Karabakh TV or radio.
There is one radio which broadcasts pop music from Nagorno-Karabakh. It can be listened online. As I said, the TV is not broadcasting live online, but if you go to www.artsakh.tv, Artsakh TV, you'll find the video clips which are very informative, and I am there pretty much every day.
So the houses here in Fresno and America, a lot of lumber, a lot of roof. Talk about what the houses are built of over there.
We prefer stone.
Stone.
More stone. We are traditionally rich in stones, different types of stones and marbles. So stone is the number one construction material.
And then the floor. I mean, are we talking stones on the floor or wood on the floor or carpet on the floor?
It depends. It depends, and people now increasingly well, usually it's a floor. It's a wood. It's a parquet floors. Not that much of the carpets, only for decoration carpets. But increasingly, they're trying to use also tiles, ceramic tiles with the heating system under it. So we're trying to bring comfort to the extent we can.
When I Googled Karabakh, a stone came up with 2 faces on it. What is that stone? It's the individuals.
Oh, yes. Grandpa and grandma.
Yes, grandpa and grandma.
Yes, Tatik Babig in Armenian, and it's a symbol of Nagorno-Karabakh. It was erected in 1967.
67?
Yes, and it symbolizes how deep our roots are in this land.
Let's talk a little bit about the culture in Karabakh. Here, when you turn on the radio, you'll hear pop, you'll hear rap music, country music, love songs. Is that popular in Karabakh, and what language?
It is. It is in the most variety of languages. And the Western culture is pretty attractive to Karabakhti young people and throughout the generations. So I wouldn't say that we are deprived of anything which can be reached online or by internet. We have some difficulties which are pure political, but being on the web and having a very easy access to internet helps a lot.
Being that there's a ceasefire now in Karabakh, are you finding that people sense that there may be war, or have people forgotten about it?
I would say that, of course, we think that having an aggressive and unpredictable neighbor is always pregnant with some ugly surprises, but it doesn't affect our determination to continue living there. That's the most important for us. And people continue to make families, to have babies, to make plans which are connected to this land.
We are running out of time this week, but quickly, name the website or somewhere people go to find out about Karabakh.
www.nkrusa.org, that's the website of our representation, which can provide all the information in English. And of course, you can contact us anytime with any issues which can pop up about Artsakh.
On that note, you have been listening to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs production of 90.7 KFSR Fresno and CMAC in Fresno. Thanks to the volunteer crew that helped with this production. Thank you to our guest, Mr. Robert Avetisyan, representative of the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Tune in next week for a new edition.